Captain Tom, World War II veteran, 100 years old, raises 33 million for the NHS. And Laurence Fox tweets out garbage disparaging the NHS. Who is the real hero here? I mean, Laurence Fox, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I think Laurence Fox cares more about money than he does British people. First reason. His latest stream of diarrhea disparaging the NHS is due to his frustration with the lockdown situation. And this is a universal, kind of a global effort. Governments trying to kind of reduce the spread of the virus, and even despite being in a lockdown, we've had like several hundred, lives lost every day. So even if we were to have this situation where it was more controlled for the elderly, but everyone was free to do what they please, it would, if the best we can do is like, at the peak of it, we had something like almost 700 deaths. These are just like a week ago during a lockdown, a day. So Laurence Fox doesn't give a crap about the repercussions of or just the context of the pandemic and how pandemics work. This is expressed in his disparaging of the NHS. He doesn't understand the British people. He doesn't understand British culture. On the list of 50 things British people are most proud of, the NHS sits at number 1, and regularly, year after year, sits either 1 or 2, either number 1 or number 2 after the Fire Brigade. It's something that British people are proud of. It's something that where the community, looks after itself. It's in the spirit of this post World War II kind of responsibility to the nation, really. And this just goes to show that Laurence Fox is out of touch with the sentiments of the everyday person. Secondly, regarding the NHS, he doesn't realise actually that it's due to the politicians in charge that are calling the shots. It's not NHS saying we must have a lockdown. It's politicians looking at the data and looking at how it would affect the NHS. And Laurence Fox doesn't really think critically. So he's disparaged NHS instead of actually looking at the reasoning behind the lockdown as called by the government and the scientific advisors. And this leads me to my second point. Laurence Fox does not have the very British attribute of thinking before speaking. In fact, when you look at responses from North Americans, for example, to a British person speaking, they assume that the British person has a degree of intelligence, a degree of just a class and integrity, something that Laurence Fox does not have. He lacks the British virtue of forbearance, thinking before speaking. He's just a wild animal in that. I mean, just, the whole adage, the saying, keep calm, carry on. He does not keep calm. But he carries on talking his bullshit. Now, why do I think this has got anything to do with him wanting or caring more about money than he does the British people? Well, he's only following the footsteps of American conservatism. He regularly retweets Breitbart, which is far-right, incredibly far-right populist online magazine. he is absolute garbage in how he kind of just swallows the far right conservative pill that's being and just nonsense that you hear from the far right in America. He just, that's his main inspiration, and it's not conventionally British to be just so uncouth, so just mindless in expressing yourself. And I do believe in free speech. I believe like everyone should have the right to speak their mind, but you should also be scrutinized for it. But you should also not try and appropriate your own, try and appropriate British culture and saying that this is in itself British, because it's not particularly British to be so stupid. Now, this leads me on to my third point. He cares more about statues than he does living, breathing British people. He complains about, this push for free school meals, but he gets very angry about the grievances of statues being taken down during, Black Lives Matter protests. And these are statues of the most richest, most entitled former slaveholders. So in all three situations, he's against NHS because he's a rich boy. He's led an entitled life. I don't care about his race. I care about his class status, the amount of privilege he's had, irrespective of race. Because I don't think he's a racist. I think he's a class injustice perpetrator. He's kind of the cross between far right populism and corporate interest, because of course everything kind of he shares, he seems to be funded by a few businessmen. He seem to be on the same page, and he just seems like a very far right conservative with kind of the American kind of tendency to just American far right tendency to just blabber crap without thinking. I mean, some conservatives, in the UK, from Spectator, they, you can call them disingenuous, but they're not stupid. Lawrence Fox is incredibly stupid. So, he's against NHS. He talks before thinking, and we saw that when he complained about the movie 1917, where he saw Sikh soldiers, which is historically accurate, in the British Army, or in the movie surrounding the British Army, and he thought this was forced diversity. Little that he knew about British history. So that's insane. And then you have, this leads me on to another point, because he knows nothing about history, but he cares about statues for preserving history. Interesting. Maybe he wants to preserve the history of a certain kind of people, the very rich, the most privileged people. Interesting. So in all situations, he's always taken a case, of and protected the cause of the most privileged, at the expense of the everyday person, the everyday Brit. And I think, as everyday people who have empathy, you can call them progressive or just a normal human being, I don't think the blame is on his followers or the working class followers, because when their needs are betrayed by the elites in government, then they're easily led by this far right populism. But little do they know that Lawrence Fox gives not a shit about their needs. He cares about his needs the needs of the very rich, the very needs, and his right to just talk shit without thinking. And I do believe in free speech, but I also believe in being scrutinizing this crap. More on this in future videos.